Whatever your home's like, it is that sanctuary, isn't it? You walk through the door, at home. It's always lovely when it's all tidy and fresh. And I like the foliage, all that sort of thing. I think that brings in a lot of gentleness to the home too. Some people thought our food was ugly, but we thought it was so beautiful. And to let the ingredients speak for themselves. We're a team. Yeah. And he feels that. But that's a great thing about marriage, I think, or partnership, whatever. The longer you stay, that unifying, that coming together, it strengthens.
How have you got through those down points then, would you think?
Drinking.
Hi, Margot.
Hi.
Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for inviting us into your lovely home. It's very special to be here. We'll talk about this place, but let's start back in the midst of time. You're a New Zealander, right?
Yes, Kiwi born
and bred. So where did you grow up?
In Wellington, in the Hutt Valley. So a suburb of Wellington.
Okay. And what was your home like?
We had a lovely home surrounded in trees, a bungalow, as British people call it. We just called it a house, a one-storey house. It was just a house that had 4 bedrooms that my dad built the extension and he built the garage. And we were on half an acre. We had a tennis court and lots of trees. And then the house went down into a gully, what you call a gully with a creek, and we would roam around in the bush, called a bush, not a forest. We kept horses about half an hour's walk away on a big, massive fields. And the house was full of art, lots of music. Always wake up in the morning. It was quite cold. And we'd all be surrounding the one heater as Mum would be doing her yoga or meditating. And, it was a big table that we all ate around. It was, friendly, warm house, lots of windows and trees. Yeah, okay. It was good.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's a really good house.
So tell me about what kind of siblings do you have then?
I have a sister and 2 brothers. Oh, no, I've got more than. I forgot. Sorry, I've got.
Hang on, who have you missed out here?
I've got 2 half-sisters. My father had children when they're my children's age, Rachel and Sarah.
So did he remarry then?
Yeah, he remarried, and they grew up in Christchurch and Melbourne, and they're very successful filmmaker. And this is Rachel on TV. She does the news bulletins. Wow. Yeah, okay. And she's in Washington at the moment.
Okay, so that's your half sister.
2 half sisters, and then I have my sister Nikki, she's 18 months younger than me, and Tristram, my brother Tristram, and my brother Robin.
Okay, where are you in the hierarchy then?
I'm the oldest.
The oldest?
The mature one.
Yeah, so tell me about that. I mean, we sometimes talk about that on the podcast, but what do you think about being the oldest?
I think there's a lot of nurturing, caring, having younger. I mean, my sister and I were 18 months, so there was more of a bit of a fight, And actually, she was very organised and had the tidiest room and would always be telling me off the way I washed the dishes. I was like, we're just washing the dishes. Have you been up to the horses? But my brother's 5 years younger and 6 years younger. I was quite, I looked after them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when they were babies, we changed their nappies, you carry them around on your hip, you're a proper mummy. And then my mother, she was a health nut. And I said, when it was I think Tristram's 5th birthday, I said, Mum, we are not having bran biscuits. And it was all brown. And I said, I need white sugar, I need white flour, and we're going to do a proper birthday. So I started catering, making meringues and all that when I was 10.
Really?
Yeah, so that, because New Zealand birthdays, it would be sliced white bread with hundreds and thousands and colour and jelly in oranges. And, there'd be a whole spread on the table. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And Mum was very special, but it would be brown biscuits and a salad and brown bread and sunflower seeds. And you're like, it's not going to cut the mustard.
I have a feeling my kids will say the same about their mum, I have to say.
But there's times you just got to, break out sometimes when it's a birthday and go a bit crazy. And a little bit of sugar now and again, it's not going to kill us all.
Definitely.
Though we did come out in boils because we never had sugar. So
after the party you did?
Or we went to stay with our grandparents, I think you need, it's moderation. It's good, isn't it? It's not like nothing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So your mum was a health nut.
Yeah.
So
when I was 2, she discovered there was a big health guru from America. Can't remember his name, but she really got into his preachings, and she even would get us to hold a bowl of white sugar and then a pendulum. We'd have to hold the pendulum, or she'd hold the pendulum, and then the pendulum would tell you whether it was you were allergic to it or not.
Okay.
And with white sugar, of course, it spins in the negative way because it's so bad for you, so refined. And she'd say, look, see how bad that is for you. Yeah. We'd go to, when we were sick, we'd go to colorists and things.
What do you mean?
Hold colour, like electric things.
What does that mean? You hold colour?
I don't know. It was all like...
So sort of colour therapy almost?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it, I wrote this down, was it Gaylord Hauser?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah. Okay, so she was a bit of a disciple of his then.
Yeah, which was brilliant. Yeah. We had cider vinegar and honey was our juice, was our cordial, brown bread, molasses, chocolate, carob. We had carob because it was all that. It was fun. Yeah. I quite enjoyed it, actually. My brothers struggled more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did that teach you about food in general, though? I mean, I suppose it's telling you that food and nutrition is very important, isn't it?
I think it's not to be scared of unusual things.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely wasn't nervous of eating things that might be a bit strange. And but I do remember going to some French people up the road and they had a green salad. And there was just green leaves and this beautiful mustard dressing and chips and a steak. And I thought, wow. I mean, I think I must have been about 7 and thinking that was so cool and precise, where our salad would be pineapples, sunflower seeds, cabbage, salad, raisins. Everything was there and very nutritious, lots of fibre. But and I really enjoyed, Mum was she's a great cook, but in a different, it doesn't come from a cuisine. But, we were open to lots of food. And I would eat oysters, smelly cheese, mushrooms. Well, you have to like mushrooms, don't you? They just smell so good. But
you don't have to. Lots of kids don't.
But I remember getting field mushrooms and that smell with the garlic and just thinking, if something smells that good,
it's true.
It's got to be. But I think it's about being open-minded about food. And then Mum actually became a food writer, so that definitely helped with the love of the restaurant.
Okay, so tell me about that. Did you go to restaurants with her?
Yeah, we did. She wrote 2 books called Eating Houses in Wellington and one called Eating Houses in Christchurch.
Okay.
And she did it with the mayor of Wellington, Michael Fowler, and Jeff Kennedy. They were she went to the mayor and said, look, give me some money. I'm going to do this book. It'll be good for Wellington. He said, no, but I'll do the drawings. And they became a team. And they were great books. And at that stage in Wellington, there were sort of incredible restaurants like Le Normandie, El Casino. They were sort of very classic, old school French. I had frog's legs for the first time when I was 15, but serious waiting. And then it got into the more sort of wooden floors, casual dining that we know to now. But back when I was a kid, even to get a license in Wellington, you needed to have carpet in the loo, in the toilet. That's how you would get a license. So that sort of departure to more, a bottle of wine on the table, more relaxed sort of friendly dining, is like a bistro in France, was quite unusual when I was a child. But, I mean, Wellington had some really great... I remember going to meet Mum for lunch when I was at the convent school, running out of school, going to meet her and having an artichoke vinaigrette for the first time and learning how to suck the leaves. And, it was fun.
Funnily enough, I had a similar experience with my kids not long ago. We were in Suffolk and they had their first globe artichoke And it blew their mind.
Yeah, it's just so brilliant, isn't it?
It's just amazing.
And then, apart from the sucking, which is great fun, and the leaves and how you place the leaves on the plate. I mean, mine are obviously a great big chaotic pile, but an architect or, you can tell a lot by the way people put their leaves down on the plate. But then you get the heart, the jewel, the most special bit once you've pushed off all the choke. And I mean, it's got so many layers in artichoke. It's amazing.
Yeah, it does. So that's your mum. What about your dad?
My dad, journalist, and then went into PR. Was in PR for years, and then moved to Christchurch when my parents split up.
How old were you at that point?
I was 18, and Mum said, off you go. And she took his mother in, so Granny Chook and Grandad Jock. Anyway, Jock was dead. Chookie comes to live with Mum. She was going a bit dotty.
This is his mother?
Yeah, and
Right.
and he went and lived in her granny flat and in Christchurch and had a great life. Ran the newspaper in Christchurch, married new, young, beautiful woman, Marianne, and they had 2 children. So, it was a good change of life, sort of, a whole new life for him. Because my family are South Londoners. I'm not South Londoners, South Islanders. Sorry, South Island.
You're a South Londoner.
I'm a South Londoner now for 7 years. So they went to live in Christchurch.
Okay, so you were 18. Do you remember much about the sort of unravelling of that relationship? Was that quite clear to see, or were you quite surprised when it disbanded?
It needed to be disbanded, but it was still very upsetting. Somebody came and said to me, "Oh, well, that's great, isn't it? That needed to happen."
Okay.
Sally Seville, my cousin. I said, well, it's still upsetting that when your parents split up, you sort of have this idea, even if they're not happy, that they should stay together. But they weren't happy and they needed to move on.
Mm.
Mum had been 21 when she married. Dad was 30. They were going, and then in the end, they became very good friends in the end. So it was, things had to change. And Dad had been a grumpy old kid, I think he was much happier when he moved to Christchurch. So it was good for everyone. And Mum went on to have many lovely relationships and new life, sold the house, moved to another house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you say, it's still a sad thing when your parents split up like that, no matter what age you are. Was there anything else in your childhood that felt challenging, difficult? I mean, it sounds like the home was a lovely place to be, but what was the sort of what were the adverse conditions you were operating in?
Well, mainly my parents not getting on very well.
Yeah.
My dad, I think he got depressed. He was depressed.
Okay.
And I think he sort of lost his way. And I think, he was a journalist, but should have probably been a writer, but never felt the confidence to be a writer. He was he was a clever guy, but I think he got a bit low and maybe drunk a little bit too much, but in a slightly depressing way. And that's the worst one, isn't it?
Mm.
Not for the joys. That, I suppose, I wanted to get out. I left home quite young. So, the Hutt Valley, you felt like you're stuck out there in the sticks. I decided to go to this convent school, not the local high school, because it was closer to town. I was moving out. When I was 13, I was working out how to get out of the Hutt Valley. But, I mean, the Hutt Valley is a brilliant place as well, but it had lost, for me, I wanted to be in Wellington, in the big smoke.
Did you? Why do you think you did?
I just wanted the excitement, the social. I didn't just want shopping malls, and that's what the Hutt Valley was turning into. They were losing the shops. The shopping malls were coming, and McDonald's opened. And so I think I wasn't even a conscious thing really, but I just think somewhere in me I wanted to experience different things. Mm. And I went to a great I went to the school. I was sports mad, but, I just wanted to be, I suppose, in that. It seemed exciting. It was right next to Parliament. It was an old building. It looked like we called it Colditz. I thought I was sort of excited by the nuns,
Yeah.
They were sort of crazy and weird. And it all felt very different than the high school that I'd been going to.
So did you get on well at school with your peers and things like that?
Yeah, I had good friends. I was good at school for a couple of years.
Then what happened?
And then it all went wrong. I was really into sports and schoolwork, and then I suddenly became more about, I suppose, punk rock took over, socialising, weekends, the horses went, the athletics went.
The horses always go, don't they?
They always go. Boys, horses, So, yeah. And there was quite a big band scene in Wellington, and there was a punk scene, and it was really exciting. And there was lots of bands coming from Europe and local bands, and we were all running around after them.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, punk comes up quite a lot. So Chris Packham revealed himself to be a big punk fan. Sue Webster was obviously a big punk fan.
I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, that's obvious. Susie and the Banshees,
I
obsession.
saw Susie and the Banshees.
Did you?
In Wellington.
Yeah.
We took great pictures of her. We were on the top. They'd always come to Wellington Town Hall, which was quite small.
Cool.
Saw the Clash there, Sting, all sorts of it. Susie was there. I mean, she's incredible.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know why they were all going to Wellington. But it must have been on the tour.
Yeah.
And you went to Wellington. You mustn't have made much money, but we were buying records, and we were obsessed with the Face magazine. And it would arrive 3 months after it had come out in London. By the time it got there, because I went on a boat, and we just poured through it. I mean, sometimes to have less is better. You appreciate it more.
Because what do you mean? Because it was the magazine and you all read it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we all read it, but also not to have, a phone, not to be able, because now everyone's aware of everyone's culture. We didn't know what was going on, so we devoured it.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to be in London,
Did you?
Yeah, that was what everyone just talked about, whether they were going to London or they were coming back from London because their visas had run out. You're either depressed because you aren't in London, or you're depressed because you've come back.
That's so interesting. What was it about London then?
It was just, Big Ben.
Big Ben.
London was just the fashion scene and the music scene was what we wanted. It was cool. I mean, I think I arrived here 84, 85, and it was so dark.
Yeah.
There were no restaurants. There was nowhere. There were pubs, of course, but pubs can be quite dark as well. Yeah. There wasn't the endless lighting that we have now. It felt much. I mean, it was very exciting, and we had it's great to be here. It was much colder too.
Colder here? Yeah,
much colder. I mean, like there was ice, snow. London, you couldn't walk down the streets because of the ice. I mean, it's warmed up a lot.
Do you not get that in Wellington then?
No.
It doesn't get that cold.
You get ice occasionally. You have very frosty mornings, but no snow. Yeah. Up on the hills a little bit. Yeah. But in the South Island you do, but not in Wellington.
Yeah, okay.
We have earthquakes.
Right.
We've got earthquakes. You learn to drop when you're at school.
Okay.
Fire drill, earthquake drill. And then they take you on trips on a bus from one end of the fault line to the other for geography. And it's just where you live.
Yeah. But, that's amazing, isn't it? So earthquake's quite a regular occurrence.
Yep. I mean, well, there was a massive one in Christchurch a while ago. That was terrible. But Wellington has a few, but there haven't been bad ones.
Yeah. So 1984, you came to London. Why was that? Was that to study, or what were you doing?
I came to work, and I'd done with studying, and I came, as I said, to see Big Ben. I was a bit in love and with a British woman, And I came out, lived in Wimbledon, got my first job at Pizza Express, and and started a great life.
How did you meet her then?
In Wellington, her family were working there.
Okay.
And we were working at the Mexican cantina.
Okay.
And then I came to London and we split up.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like she was a good passport to the place.
she was great, yeah. And her name was Benny, so I always say I'm going to see Big Ben. But, there was a group of us that were from New Zealand, but I said to my best friend, Franny, we are going out. We are going to meet British people. And she was very beautiful. I said, can you just try and smile, Franny? Because, it does help when you're meeting people. Anyway, I'll do the talking. It will be okay. And we started to meet British people. And but also, not just, we had lots of New Zealand friends as well. But you can get a bit stuck and it's hard to branch out. And also British people seem very snooty. And they didn't like our accents. We felt vulnerable as well, but you had to push through that and say, no, that's not a problem. And then I moved into central London. I was living under the post office tower and I got a job at the National Gallery in the canteen. And I just thought my life was made.
What were you doing?
I was cooking.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that your first cooking job?
No, I'd had loads. But that
was the pinnacle.
I was living in central London. I was working at the National Gallery.
Yeah.
Simple. What a sweet girl she was. No, it was great. It was good.
So what was the moment where the sort of slightly career-changing moment for you then from there?
I mean, at that stage, I was more working to live, to travel, and I really enjoyed being in kitchens. And when I worked at the National Gallery, it was Justin de Blanc who was the caterer there. All the food was made in-house, so all the stews, all the biscuits, everything. So it was really good food. And then I went, my visa ran, I went to Australia and I started working in some really good restaurants. And I decided when I was 25 that it was time to push myself forward rather than sitting back. And that was a sort of, I had been always cooking, but sort of not really pushing myself like, oh, I'm happy in this, sitting back in the kitchen. And then it all changed. It's amazing what happens when you do push yourself a bit.
So what changed?
Well, I got offered a job. A job came up. I was working at 192 in Notting Hill, and I said, can I be the sous chef? And they said, no, I wasn't up to it. I said, fair enough. And then somebody offered me a head chef job. So I said, well, I have to take it because of the New Year's resolution. And I just think before, if I hadn't said that, push yourself, I wouldn't have taken it. I would have been too scared. And I just fought through the fear and also employed a lot of really good chefs.
Yeah.
So a lot of the way I've learned to cook is through having great teams who have really helped me. And anyway, I was at first floor in Notting Hill, and that was quite...
So that was your first head chef job?
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
Not that long, about 6 months.
Okay, what went wrong?
Well, I had to go home. I went back to New Zealand. The place was a bit of a struggle for me. Actually, there was a sort of attitude. We got some really good reviews and everyone was a bit smuggy pants. I was like, this can change at any minute, and it's sort of this attitude, oh, we're so busy. Mm-hmm. And actually, this could change at any second. Be grateful to your customers. It was a bit of a wild old place, but and I just also felt I needed to learn more. And I sort of overstepped the mark a bit. But, I was in there and I wanted to learn different things. So I went to work for Charles Fontaine at the Chop House.
This is the Quality Chop House in Farringdon, yeah.
Yeah, and that was brilliant. He's so, so strict and rules. And I hadn't really done that. I was a bit more of a hippie chef. So that was really fantastic. And I love Charles. And I once stepped over the line from the kitchen into the dining room. He went absolutely ballistic. I just didn't know that I wasn't meant to do that. But he's very old school French, he learned with his head was shaven and they carried buckets of coal to make the walk-in fridges work. And if they got any coal on their jackets, they were beaten.
They were beaten.
Yeah, they're all beaten.
Oh, wow.
Chefs are constantly being beaten. Not anymore, of course.
Yeah.
But,
Did you see that then? What was the culture like in the kitchen then?
I mean, I never saw that because I just kept away from those places. I was too scared.
Yeah.
But, there's been, striving for all that perfection, it can be probably frustrating. But now we'd all meditate together for perfection. And restaurants are doing so well, and they've got such, we've moved on a long way.
Yeah.
But I think this is with all businesses and all trades, it's all changed so much, how we respect the people we work with. And I don't think you can say it's just one defining group of people, but people do like to talk about chefs being a bit brutal. It's a brutal situation. You've got a lot of heat, you've got a lot of pressure all at the one time. And I've been known to shout a bit.
Yeah.
But I haven't punched anyone.
It's good to know. And didn't you work at the Eagle as well, across the road from the Chop House?
Yep. So I went over to the Eagle, and that was a joy. I loved working for David Eyre. He's a brilliant chef. His food came from Mozambique and Portugal because him and his brother grew up there. So really sort of Portuguese-based food with Italian. We cooked. It was hard. It was so busy. Everyone was there. The Guardian was next door, and everyone would come for lunch. Damien Hirst, Jade Joplin, they were all in for lunch every day because it was such a new thing to have a pub with great food.
Well, it was the original gastropub in London, wasn't it? And it was just fantastic, and it still is.
It still is, and it's got the same sense of how it started. Obviously, it's a bit more competition now, but we would cook 120, we called it plates of food because there wasn't really starters and mains, but really good quality, yummy, delicious food. And in front of us was just hundreds of people. It was quite a weird situation to be in because it's quite intense. Usually you're a bit away, but at the Eagle is really...
It's quite performative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
Was it there that you met Fergus?
Met Fergus there. Well, we had met 1 year before when he'd done a pop-up. We didn't call them pop-ups then, but he'd done a restaurant for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, but they closed down after 4, I think. But in Covent Garden, called 17 Mercer Street. And his partner, Piers Thompson, came into the first floor I was working and said, "Oh, we're opening this club." And I thought, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to afford it." He said, "It's £15 to join." I said, "I might be able to do this one." Anyway, I went to the opening day and, Rose Gray was there. All these foodie people I recognised across the room. It felt very exciting. And Fergus cooked pigeon and peas. And on my plate, I got pigeon and peas. I thought, this guy is amazing. This is so simple, so beautiful. This is what I'm going for. Anyway, a year later, we met at the Eagle. And then I suggested we open a restaurant together. And we did 3 weeks later.
3 weeks later? Are you serious?
Or maybe it was a month, but really quickly, the French House dining room.
Okay, so the French House you opened together. And were you a couple at that point when you opened it, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's intense.
Yeah, it was great. It was so exciting. We were falling madly in love, and we were working together. It was intense. Fergus hadn't worked in that many restaurants.
Because he's an architect by training, isn't he?
Yeah, he went to the AAA, and I think he feels deeply an architect, but all his architecture was about eating halls and basically St. John, really. That's what all his projects were on. But we connected, we were connected, and but in a food way as well. I was about to bone out all the quails and stuff them, and Fergus said, "Oh no, we're going to cook them whole." And I just went, "Yes, of course," because I hadn't even thought about that because I was so used to, everything boned out, chicken breasts, and we poached the chickens whole. So I learned a lot from him, and he learned from me as well. Running of a kitchen, all that, just the sort of basic, straightforward things, running the kitchen, cleaning.
Exactly. I read in an interview where you said that you were in some ways in awe of Fergus at that point. What do you mean by that? What is it that you admired and admire about Fergus's approach to food?
Well, I just love it that he has a philosophy for a start, and that nose to tail, and that I was just so about following along with the thoughts of somebody else and what they'd been telling us, and not necessarily agreeing with it. So suddenly we were discussing things and changing things and cooking exactly what we wanted to and what we liked, and to cook slow food, braise things slowly, use the parts behind the fillet. I'd cook lots of offal, but we were, offal was it was about different textures and soothing food, and I just loved it. And he's a great guy who has a lot of inspiration. He's got a great voice. He teaches with care, and he always gives you the reason and the thoughts behind why he thought, the basic one, not to dice. Don't dice. If God wanted square vegetables, he would have made them, or she would have made them. But, now to look at a diced vegetable for me is quite tricky. But, it's about letting things be themselves and not mucking around with it so much, so that sometimes food can have 20 pairs of hands on it before you've actually got it on your plate, and to have let the ingredients speak for themselves. It all just, nowadays it's just so obvious, but at the time it was sort of felt very revolutionary, and we were doing something quite different. And also the joy of bringing British food onto the plate, that we didn't just have to be European, and cooking boiled ham and parsley sauce and pies. Fergus really brought pies back to the way it's just, and using things like trotters. His food is quite Italian. I would say, he calls it green sauce, but it's actually salsa verde, isn't it? He doesn't have pasta and rice, okay?
Yeah.
But, the sense. We went to Italy together, and we had a piece of sort of burnt rabbit, and we never forgot it. It was always we always came back from Italy going less, because, the food is so simple and beautiful. So that was, it was about elegant food. Some people thought our food was ugly, but we thought it was so beautiful. And it may not have red peppers in it just to give it colour, and it was quite brown and textural and more unctuous.
Yeah. What was it like for you when Fergus opened St. John?
Well, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
And when we first saw the space, I was terrified, but he could see it so easily. He just got it and had that, he's an incredibly confident man, Fergus, very sure of his thoughts when it comes to food and architecture. So it was very exciting to follow along and see what he did. And of course, painted all the walls white. All the big smoke rooms, they cleaned them all up and they were going to be white. But even at the French house, I was like, uniforms, that's a bit much. But actually the uniforms at the French were one of the best things. It makes the seriousness of the waiter. The waiter is the sentinel. He should never kneel down on the floor and take your order. Stay stronger. Let them come up to you. Be polite. I'm not saying be rude and snooty, but, that is your job. And to have that slight gap, I think it strengthens the waiter as well. And the uniform does help with that. And it looks good too, of course. But, the white walls, the going up to the dining room. It was just going in there. It was just so exciting. We were all having a brilliant time. But then he was off, getting, it was all going for him.
Yeah, he reached the stars at that point, didn't he?
Yeah, and because he had such original things to say, which I probably use a bit, some of Fergus's lines, but he's got such a great original brain, so that all came in, and it was exciting. But I was a bit having the babies.
Okay, well, tell me about that then.
Yeah.
So you became a mum.
Baby gaga, but I had the French house, so I kept the French house, and Melanie, John Spiteri was Fergus's partner. They went off, the men, and did St. John with Trevor. And I stayed with the little restaurant and had the babies. But I was completely baby gaga. But if I thought about it now, I would not let that happen.
Well, tell me about that then. What do you mean by that?
I would say, no, I'm your partner. I'm coming with you.
Right.
And I should have been a bit stronger. But, I was loving having children as well. I wanted lots. Well, I had 3. It's not lots, but, it's enough. And we lived in Covent Garden, so it was great to work at the French house. I think work is such an important part of anyone's life, and probably why so many women in the past have gone mad is because they didn't have work. And then you think you have to push your work through your children. No wonder they become pushy mums. It's all sort of makes sense. But if you have good work, you can balance your life out. And, having my restaurants has been a great strengthening for me, and looking after my children, because I needed to have both, because looking after kids can be quite hard.
Totally. It must have been chaos for you. I mean, I read something where you said, if I could get through a night without crying, it was a miracle. That's a full-on statement. So what was it like that period?
I think I'm talking about being pregnant.
All right.
Okay, go on. I think I'm talking about being pregnant and working in the kitchen, and you're really tired, and and you've got a big tummy, and and your legs are aching, and in the end, when I ended up moving out of the kitchen quite a lot and becoming more managed and, discussing with the chefs. But we used to go in every day. I'd take my little kids into the kitchen, talk about the menu with the chefs. But we had so many great chefs that, I think I was probably there more than they needed me to be.
Okay.
But, I learned from them, they learned from me. And, I think it's been important for me to be very involved in. And that's, if it's your business, you can do all that, can't you?
Yeah. Let's talk about this house. So we're in southwest London. What would you call this area? What do you call it?
Stockwell.
Stockwell. Okay. So we're in a Victorian terraced house.
Yes.
How did you end up being here, and what was it like when you got here?
How did we get here? We were moving out of our beautiful flat in Covent Garden. It was quite sad.
Why were you moving?
We'd sort of wrecked it, and we didn't have any money, and it was worth quite a lot. And it was, but people kept saying it's a mess. Tell them that we'll offer them less. But we kept saying we don't really want to move. But it was a time where houses were they were pricey, and we were thinking east, but it was just crazy. And then I said, what about South London? And Fergus said, and it seemed close to Soho, which for us was the centre of the universe, and not really realising that actually it was Shoreditch in the end. But my youngest still went to school in North London, so we needed to be on the Northern Line. So we looked down here. We actually came down. The agent was an hour late, so it was dark by the time we got here. I'm sure it was a whole ploy. I'm convinced he said it was the big house across the road. And this is a smaller house. But we sat I had a black cab then, and we sat in the black cab for an hour. And by the time it arrived, we were already in love with the road, because we love our road. So it felt wider, and it's got a good sense of space about it. Fergus said, yeah, I like this road. This is good. And so we'd already bought it before we'd even looked at the house, and we needed to move. It had 4 bedrooms, and it had a garden. And, so, and we love Stockwell. It's a really lovely area. It's no tourists. Love the Portuguese shops. And it's very quiet, actually. At first, it was so quiet that we were whispering in our own house, because we'd been in Covent Garden for 20 years, and the kids went to school in Soho Parish. And, we're used to noise, and it was a bit scary, sort of tiptoeing around because it was so quiet. But we enjoy it. It's
you like
lovely,
it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got a lovely garden at the back with your wisteria and your lovely planting that you showed me around. It's got a very serene atmosphere to it. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it's calm. It's gentle. It's not a big house, but it's big enough. God, houses take a lot of work, don't they?
Yeah.
Leaks, roofs, all of it. But it's It's a real pleasure, this house, and we've really enjoyed living here. We've probably ruined the neighbours' lives a bit. Way too many parties, but we were like... And at first I chopped all the garden down and they were a bit upset about that. I think they thought I was going to concrete it over. But now they're happy about the garden and we have less parties because our children have moved out.
Okay.
But, and we're a bit older, probably.
A quick interlude to let you know that there's a house tour to accompany this episode, which is available to insiders on Patreon. Here's a short preview. And what happens at this table here?
It's a work table, it's a champagne table, it's even been a caviar table. Somebody brought a lot of caviar around once and we had an amazing caviar feast. It's a beautiful alto table given to us by Fergus's parents.
And why alto? You've got the other alto stools as well. What is it about other alto?
Drawers, shelves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have got the shelves as well.
Got the shelves.
Oh, lovely.
Fergus's parents, they were amazing collectors of alto, and we were given a lot of stuff by them when they moved to a smaller house, and also we love it. It's so fundamental, works really well. It's beautiful, everything about alto. Our cat's even called Alto.
Are you really? You got a cat called Alto, I love it.
That was to get Fergus to like the cat a bit more. But he does love the cat.
How's that going for you? Okay, it's working.
It worked.
But on the parties thing, you obviously like to have a good time, right? Is that fair?
We like to have a jolly.
Yeah, you're a convivial, bon viveurs in some ways, aren't you? Why is that? Why do you like to live like that?
I think people, picks you up. I love the social. I love this. I think you really make friends with somebody when you sit down at a meal together, and then lunch and all its possibilities. We could a lovely lunch that might turn into a bit of dancing, chatting to the whole table. How you move around a table, you might talk to this person, that person, sort of bringing people together, eating good food, drinking lovely wine. It's a big part of our lives.
Yeah,
and a bit of dancing on top.
Yeah, and a bit of dancing on top. And is it usually lunch as well? Is lunch better than dinner?
Well, just because I like to go to bed so early these days. But lunches I find better. But but also be having dinner next week with some friends. So here.
So it's obviously quite a convivial place. It's somewhere that you gather with friends and family. Is it also a place of privacy? Is it a place that you kind of use to find your own space as well?
Once you've done all the jobs at house, no. It's very it's soothing. It's a good place to sit, to have a good think about all the stuff that's going on, because we have busy lives. There's a lot of different components whirling around, home is such a whatever it is, whatever your home's like, it is that sanctuary, isn't it? You walk through the door, at home. It's always lovely when it's all tidy and fresh. And I like the foliage, all that sort of thing. I think that brings in a lot of gentleness to the home too.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of art in here. You've got this wall of Sarah Lucas works, which is amazing. There's lots of stuff above the fireplace and things. Why do you like to live with art? What does that add to your life?
Looks great. Thought-provoking. I just think art is... it just brings so much to your life, to your thoughts. Whether it's sort of sad or joyful, it's like books. They're telling stories. They're giving you how do they come up with all this stuff, artists? The reason why I'm like, God, thank God I'm not an artist. But I take a lot of pleasure from it. And I suppose a bit of it is also the pleasure of owning things a bit, possessions, having lovely things around that you love and that you're incredibly fond of. I think art works like that.
Do you know quite a few artists?
Met a few along the way.
Yeah.
St. John,
okay.
The artists. They started coming to the French first.
Yeah.
And then St. John definitely was Fergus called me once. I'm at the French house and he said, Sarah Lucas is in the restaurant. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm coming down.
Coming down. Mr. of course. But she, all the YBAs, weird name, but they all were really enjoying it. They loved it. They got it, where a lot of people were struggling with St. John, its white walls and things. And they understood it straight away, that whole group and that friendship. They had studios around that area at that time. So it was a social buzz, and that's what you want in a restaurant. You want artists, you want the people communicating. They bring so much atmosphere. And, just the argument, why there's no art on the walls at St. John? Well, you're the art people and just the hanging of the coats, all of that comes together there. I mean, there was just, it was very exciting. And then we started bringing them home they came to our home. We cooked for people at home. And I was doing catering as well. So I started catering for Sadie Coles and lots of galleries, Jay Joplin. So that was all happening. So it was all coming from all directions, and we made some great friends.
Yeah, friends
for life.
Yeah. So there's no art, no flowers, no music. Is that right?
That's Fergus.
That's Fergus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you carry that through to Rochelle Canteen as well?
We did a bit, but not so much now.
Yeah.
I've got tired of this wall. I don't think it looks any good. It needs, because Fergus has shaker hooks all around the walls.
Yeah.
So in a way that is the art. But I've got one wall that it's just looking a bit like sad. So no, we've been hanging some out there. We had a Kai Althoff, amazing painter, up for a while. We've had Don Brown, who did this beautiful rose. We've, at the moment, got Johnny Shankid, who's just published a beautiful book of photographs of Suffolk landscapes. And we've got 3 of his. And it looks great. I mean, it's quite fun, actually. I'm really enjoying it. Like, let's get some art. And we're talking about having another show at the end of the year. So it's quite, it's just very whatever happens. They can leave it up for a few months. It's not like we're being a serious gallery or anything. But we don't have music. Because the noise or the chatter of the people is enough, isn't it? I even find it hard eating with music in the background. But we love music, but this place, I think to eat with music, I mean, not always, not so strict. Actually, at the pub, because I've got a pub in Somerset, Three Horseshoes, sometimes it can be almost, the silence can be too much. So you do need a bit of background music. Music has got many places. It's just getting it right, isn't it?
So how would you describe the Rochelle Canteen and the Three Horseshoes then in terms of a sort of you've obviously built on the experiences of where you've been previously. You've obviously built on the St. John legacy to some extent. But how do you feel like, what does it represent for you, I suppose, the way that you especially approach a place to eat?
I mean, they're both very different places. Rochelle grew out of a bike shed. Melanie and I, with 3 small children each, needed to be very flexible. And we were doing catering. And, we didn't have a license for years. So the catering was very much part of what we were doing to make money. And now, since COVID, we've got our beautiful plastic tent and a vine that we get about 10 kilos of grapes from every year.
Oh, right.
And we juice it and freeze it and make sorbet. But the vine this year is really looking, there's so much, you can see all the grapes starting. And it comes out of one pot. But, the feeling is, I suppose, the essence is great food. For me, it's food first. But the staff, warmth from the staff, it's to have a convivial place, but with rigor. And, we have flowers sometimes and not always, and the flowers come and go. The team is the most important thing, really. It's how the kitchen and the front of house work together. And the food is British, but sort of moves towards Europe as well. So, modern European.
Yeah, I suppose I think of abundance, generosity.
Yeah, warm. Yeah, generosity. We want it to feel generous.
Yeah.
The pub is very generous. Nye Smith is the chef there. His food is really strong in flavour and style, and the person that he is. I can just see Nye in his food. So that's what we want, people to express themselves and their creativity, to look at what's around them, their produce. So Somerset is just amazing for that. I mean, the producers, we've got Westcombe up the road. Somebody else everyone's got a pig they're breeding in the back of their garden. Both places we buy whole animals. Hector, my son's the head chef at Rochelle, and he's butchering away this huge hind leg of beef today. There's a lot of, I think that makes it very important, and the love, and they need to know where the produce is coming from, to have good produce animals that have been well looked after, fish that's come from the right place at the right time, because we must look after our oceans as much as our farming. And vegetables, even in Britain, our vegetables are getting better. They are really we're getting really beautiful vegetables that aren't great big old brutes that are just being picked because they weigh a lot. So, I mean, it's a very exciting time, if not a bit more competitive.
Yeah.
Everyone's a chef these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about, getting back to the home, tell me about what are your sort of routines, your everyday kind of rituals here? How does it support just your everyday life?
It's pretty basic, it's washing, cleaning. Fergus is not so well these days, so there's a lot of caring for him. And I think that's really important, to have him with us and not be just sending him off to some, care or something. So Fergus is a big part of the everyday. The garden is very important. So, I mean, if I'm ever but upset about something, I'm in the garden digging, because that helps me. Cooking, that lovely kitchen. I love being in the kitchen cooking. So, yeah, and also relaxing, watching television or having friends. I mean, it's about it's not a very big house, so it's easy to use each room. It's not like we have a whole area that's not being used. It's all very functional. And do you yoga here where we're sitting now?
Do you do yoga?
Yeah, I do. Adrian, she's on YouTube. I love her.
Oh, right.
She's really lovely.
Adrian, the yoga guru.
She's just the sweetest person in the world.
Okay.
I feel she's talking to me.
Really?
So a bit of all of that. And it's nice to have outside, inside, and just hanging out. We do a lot of hanging out. And sometimes I say in the weekend, we are staying south. We're not going over the bridge. But I love crossing the bridges. I think that's been one of the loveliest things about moving south, is that we're constantly seeing the river, being with the river. And the river is amazing. I wish we had more, wish we were all doing more on the river.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what a great city. It's a brilliant city. I love it.
And are you a tidier?
Yeah, I'm always tidying.
Yeah. But are you someone that's bothered when things aren't in their place?
Well, there's bothered and bothered. No, people who are bothered would say I'm not bothered.
Okay.
But, I like it. I love it. We do have a cleaner.
Yeah.
And when she's been, life is always better.
Yeah, that's a good day, isn't it?
It's the fresh day. So things get out of place, but then they come back into place.
You touched on Fergus there and his illness. So for those people that aren't aware, can you just explain what that is and when he was first diagnosed? So
Fergus got Parkinson's when he was about 34. That was hadn't even really heard of Parkinson's. But we learned pretty quickly that we were very lucky, because it's not a life-threatening disease. And now he has got early onset dementia, which I was thinking, what's going on with Fergus? This is so odd. Anyway, I Googled for the first time. I'm not a Googler of illness.
Did you?
And they seem to go hand in hand. But, he's doing really well. He sometimes has worse days than other days. Sometimes it's meant to be routine, is meant to be very important, and we're not so good at routine. But, Fergus comes to work with me. The everyone that's very kind at work with him, and sometimes I think, is he having a nice time? And we're in a social atmosphere. And I said, are you all good? And he'll say, I'm fantastic. And he loves being social so much. He doesn't want to sit at home and just be quiet all the time. So it's about a good balance. And he's such a gentle, warm person. His, that soul and spirit of him is very much there. But it is a bit of a bore. We do miss him waking up in the morning and saying, what's for lunch? But he still wants his lunch, don't worry. Food is very important still. Yeah. And he's actually quite fit. And his Parkinson's, because he's got 2 wires in his brain. He's got DBS. So he moved like crazy when he first got Parkinson's. It was a whirlwind, just didn't stop moving. And then he got a battery here with 2 wires into his brain in Queen Square at the hospital there, and it changed our lives. He stopped moving.
Really?
I mean, like a whirlwind. He could still move, but it completely, instantly changed our lives.
How amazing.
Yeah. I hope the wires aren't going rusty. That's what I always say to the doctors, to the absolute angels in Queen Square.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how does it affect your everyday life? Because it must be, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a carer.
You're a bit of a carer.
Yeah. So it's like, what's happening with Fergus? Is he okay?
Yeah.
All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't cook for me anymore. That's really annoying.
That is a shame.
It's annoying.
Yeah, that is a shame.
I could really do with a Fergus meal.
Yeah.
He's a great cook.
Yeah.
He was such a good cook. But no, we're having a very good life, and we're in our 60s, so it's fine to slow down a bit. We're off to Scotland on holiday soon, and we went to Thailand for Christmas.
Wow.
So we're doing stuff. It's good.
How do you make sure that you're okay through all of that, though?
Friends, family, yeah. My friends, that sometimes we've thought about moving to the country, but I couldn't because I'd have to move away from our friends. It's hard enough moving to South London. Are your friends going to come and see you in South London?
Yeah.
But they do come. All those North Londoners. The Great Divide.
Would it be fair to say that loyalty is important to you?
Yes, loyalty is such an incredible emotion, feeling, isn't it? Well, people are loyal, staff are loyal. Loyalty is a great... Are we loyal to the Labour Party?
Loyalty, from a political standpoint, there may be a different thing.
I'm just worried about that. I've been thinking about loyalty. I'm still loyal to the Labour Party. Loyalty. Friendship and caring for each other and watching out as we, I think it's going to become more important as you get older, and nurturing, watching out, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. The two of you are married, aren't you? Yeah.
Got married after knowing each other 7 months.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was your wedding day like?
It was brilliant. Oh, my God. We got married in the Somerset forest. 300 people. I knew 50. And it was in this beautiful church in the middle of the Somerset forest. I was in gold isimayaki.
What?
And I had
Seriously?
red hair and a Victorian paisley shawl, and Fergus was in tails. We had a choir. He sang from the Jungle Book, We Are Friends, and Jerusalem, of course. And then we had cassoulet, and Fergus and I cooked cassoulet, and all the ushers put a big pot of cassoulet down on each table.
That's just fantastic.
It was great. It was a great day, and I had to leave.
What do you mean?
Everyone said you have to go because...
Oh, I see.
That old tradition thing.
Oh, it's rubbish.
That's so rubbish. Everyone's telling you you're beautiful and, your best friends. And we went off to Paris.
You're beautiful. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I fell asleep into my steak tartare. Boof. Yeah, and then we we ate a lot in Paris. Fergus tripe one day, this another day, Grand for 4 another day. I was like, Fergus, I'm exhausted. Yeah, it was great. It was good.
I can picture it. I mean, I think it's worth saying the two of you are, I mean, from a style perspective, just so brilliant, so chic. I mean, you know,
it's very nice of you to say.
No, it's true though. That the two of you together, it's an amazing thing. And I suppose that's why I'm interested in the loyalty aspect. And you know, it really feels to me like you're a unit. It's a kind of unbreakable thing, it seems to me.
Well, I can't leave him now, can I?
Oh no, of course.
It's my favourite joke. But no, yeah, we're a team. Yeah. And he feels that. And we've always been we've all had our ups and downs, haven't we? God. But that's a great thing about marriage, I think, or partnership, whatever. The longer you stay, that unifying, that coming together, it strengthens the roots.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really a big believer in marriage.
Yeah.
And I quite like the signing too. I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
I think the more locked in, the better. Because it helps. You know, relationships are so tricky anyway, aren't they? Something happens, this happens. But, you know, that because you signed on the paper with all your friends in front of you, you've sort of really got to stick in there. And the longer you stick in, the better. I mean, we've had such fun too. I mean, Fergus is fun. Yeah. He's up for fun and art and seeing things and making the most of every situation. So that's been a really great part of our lives.
How have you got through those down points then, would you think?
Drinking.
It's not a joke that either, is it?
A few drinks always helps, doesn't it? Friends, crying, screaming. I don't know. I'm being quite emotional, but, you know, being with people always helps. Cooking. Let's cook dinner. And, you know, and all restaurants. Fergus, if there's only a bad time, Fergus says, I think we need a treat. Let's go. We deserve a really expensive meal in a restaurant. He would always be saying, I think we really deserve this.
Yeah.
And we'd go out for some glamorous meal and everything would be better and we'd have no money. You know, it's not very practical. But yeah, we've solved our problems a lot through eating out.
That's great.
Yeah. And we love restaurants. That moment you walk in, I love it when you arrive in a restaurant and it's quiet and it's early in the day and then it all builds up and the noise and everything and then you're still there and it subsides. Yeah. It's a great love we have for that sort of pleasure of people coming together.
Yeah. Fantastic. Last question. The word home, how would you define it?
Home. Is it New Zealand? Is it Britain? Is it your house? It's where you feel at home. I mean, I feel very at home in Britain. I feel very at home in South London here, yeah. But I still feel at home in New Zealand. I don't know. Home is where your heart is, isn't it? It's where your family are and your friends, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Margot. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic.
Thanks a lot.